This is fine. This is a poor substitute for therapy, but an excellent substitute for other podcasts.
We're not like other podcasts.
Join us as we find the answers to the universe's biggest questions like, is butter a carb? Does crying burn calories? And what the fuck am I doing with my life? We're here to be your part-time therapist, astrologer, concierge doctor, and fairy godmother. Do you need someone to validate you today? Cool. Come on in. We're fine. This is fine. You guys, welcome back. Happy holidays. I hope you've been wonderful, so much more than fine. I've missed connecting with you on social, but I just got my account back from Instagram. Bless. She's like, I hate Instagram. And then the second she can't log on, she's like, wait, let me back in. And after a brief stint in the hospital this week, long story, I'm back in the studio because I just can't stop creating content. In all seriousness, I hope you're staying healthy. It is getting crazy out there. The waiting room at my last medical adventure was absolutely packed, and it took 3 hours just to get an IV. And I don't live in a crazy packed city. So this is all to say, my heart is with you. I am sending good, healthy energy, lots of strength, woof, all around. Okay, on to some holiday joy, positive mental energy. I called up Dr. Kevin Gilliland again and begged him to come back on the show for today's episode. I personally need all of his holiday season/winter, the SADS, mental health tips. Dr. Gilliland joined us for episode 2 back in the summertime, and I am so delighted he has returned for us. We need a therapist right now. He has returned. He has risen. I love the holidays. Christmas is one of the pillars of my entire personality, but even I can get overwhelmed and sometimes sad this time of year, mostly because I am an extremely emotional person, as you probably know. But I know you have similar experiences as well. And I also can get the wintertime blues, shocking, or the SADS, as I like to call it, seasonal affective disorder, thanks to the shorter amount of daylight hours, the gloomier weather, the whole drill. So it's high time we have a toolkit for making the most of what is supposed to be a very joyful time of year. We're going to get Dr. G's tips for maintaining vibrant mental health through the holiday season, combating those winter sads, and mentally preparing for the new year. Dr. G, thank you for taking the time today for this week's very important episode combining two of my favorite topics, winter holidays and mental health. Thank you.
I'm so glad to be here. And yes, I love both these subjects. And if what we said off the air is half as good as what we're about to say, I can't wait to see where this goes. Yes. It's going to be awesome.
Y'all are in for a special treat today. Dr. Gilliland and I have just been riffing off of one another, talking about mental health and life and the holidays as per usual. Are you in the holiday spirit?
I am. I got to tell you, I am.
Lovely.
And I even threw down today, I rolled some green pants and red Jordans.
Oh my God,
Very
yes.
seasonal. Very seasonal.
It's so on brand for you.
Look at me. I know, right? Isn't it? I'm like, look at me. I am. Yeah. And here's the funny thing is sometimes it's just the little things. You're like, wow, yeah, this is just kind of fun. So, right? Yeah.
Adds some festive energy. I know, I have
yes.
I have this frankincense and not myrrh, but whatever the scent is. It's like a molten brown hand soap with some jingle bells on it, and just washing my hands with a little Christmassy soap. I'm like, this is lovely.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, we overthink what we need to help with our mood or with isolation or loneliness. I'm like, listen, people. Here's the awesome news. Little things can have a surprising effect.
Yes.
Like a candle scent. I don't know what it is. We're big candle people in the family.
Oh, same.
My lovely bride and my 3 grown-ass children. I don't know another name. They're grown-ass adults is what I'd normally say, because I'm like, there's not a good name for them when they're not children. They live on their own and have jobs. So I don't know what to call them. So I call them grown-ass adults. But we're big candle fans. And, man, there's some of those scents that you would swear you're in the mountains with a fire. And I'm like, okay, this scent, it just is soothing and it's unbelievable. You will be surprised at what little things can do. So, Yes, it's that. Those are the things we need to start looking for more and more.
I love it. And it really does put you in the hall. It's transformative. I feel like smell, well, as you know, is one of the most powerful memory triggers.
Yes.
Well, you're talking to the right person. I'm obsessed with candles. We'll get into that more offline, though.
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to be us going on Tangent City.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
that's so great.
For some context, for anyone listening who's just tuning in, meeting you for the first time, first of all, like lucky them getting to meet you for the first time, TBT for us. Can you debrief them on your expertise and background in the mental health space?
Sure. I actually was trained as a clinical psychologist, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've worked in the business world with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas and Johnson & Johnson on the medical affairs side, and then treating people, doing some treatment research with addictions, and then with anxiety and mood. Just over the years, working with couples and just a lot of wonderful people. And I feel so lucky to have ended up in a career that I just love. And I don't take that for granted. So I've done a little business, some treatment, a little bit of research. And, the thing that, and you and I talk about it a lot, is I have really felt strongly the past 7 or 8 years about we as a field have to do a better job of talking about psychological health.
Yes.
Because we all need it. And man, the past 2.5 years, we desperately need it in alarming numbers. And we have to do a better job talking about it. That's why I always enjoy visiting with you about it and broadening the things that we know from good research and data help us a little bit. And so it's an encouraging thing. And that's the short version. A little bit of business, a little bit of therapy, and a lot of bit of learning.
The TLDR is you're helping people live happier lives, and it's such a special thing. We're so grateful to have you and your expertise and your wisdom and your positive energy here. We already kind of asked if your holiday season is off to a good start, but we always like to ask, are you fine today?
Yeah. You know what? I'm doing better than I deserve. I really and today I am thankful for that.
Oh, I love that. Well, that's a perfect way to kick this off, because although we are going to talk about some holiday and winter woes, I want us to all walk away from this feeling positive and light. So we're going to get into like the murky stuff and then figure out some ways to navigate through that, out of it, and feel good. So I figured we might start, if you're cool with this, by discussing holiday expectations and how those set us up for maybe some heartache and disappointment. I'm thinking a few examples, like the picture-perfect family ideals versus the reality of messy families, broken families, estranged families, you name it. Or we've got holiday romance a la Hallmark, and the reality might be you're single or going through a breakup or a divorce. Or the thrill of holiday parties and invitations versus the reality of maybe some loneliness, being away from friends and family, or not feeling connected to or part of a group. In general, expectation versus reality, I think especially this time of year, is heightened. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I think so, and maybe. I think I hit everything. No, but it's a wonderful time of year. But I, as you were saying that, I think about some of the experience we've all had going back to work and life after COVID. And that is, everybody's at different places and we don't know where people are at, right? Like I work with a lot of people that have never stopped doing what they do. They've had to be really cautious. And then others still haven't flown, still haven't been in a public sort of venue or area, and are still working remotely. And we bump into those people at grocery stores or on the street, and you're like, wow, we're all in such different places and spaces.
Yep.
And the holidays are one of those. And, if you've, like you touched on, it can be a sad, happy time.
Yep.
That you go, wow, this is my first year without so-and-so or away from, and you go, okay, that's a piece of what you have this year. And you've got a sort of these traditions and events, whether it's companies or families or Friendsgiving, and you may not feel like being around all that festive stuff because of where you're at with mood. And you go, okay, but balance it. Because you go, okay, you may say no to a few of these things, but you want to be careful that you don't say no so often that you end up isolated.
Totally.
Because one of the things that we've known for decades and we saw highlighted with COVID is isolation is the most savage mental health symptom we all struggle with.
Right.
It's terrible. And so you want to keep an eye on, am I withdrawing too much? And it may mean that, I don't go to these big things, but I'm going to be around the people or engage in some things that are a little bit on the more positive side of mood or life, even if I don't feel like it.
Right.
Because, the reality is there are times we have to do things and wait for our mood and attitude to follow. Because there are plenty of times we get all excited, and whether it's New Year's resolution, we get all excited and my behaviors aren't quite in line with my excitement and my enthusiasm and my new shoes. And so that's all it is. But
Right.
you want to be mindful of it and make sure you're not tipping into that isolation, withdrawn piece of it. And the expectations, oh my gosh. Here's the problem with expectations. Expectations are a lot like peer pressure. If you were to, if I was to say, hey, do you ever struggle with peer pressure? You'd be like, no. And if you were to ask me, hey, do you struggle with expectations? I'd probably go, no. But if I said to you, hey, do you have FOMO? You'd be like, oh my gosh, yes,
Absolutely.
I totally get that. And I'm like, how can we, and I love that term because it really gets at our challenge, and expectations require us to really step back and be observant.
Yeah.
Right? Because you go, oh, it's the thought that counts. And you go, well, if it's the thought that counts, why are you so upset? I mean, you know what I mean? Because you go, oh, I want the perfect gift, or I want it.
Right.
Well, okay, well. And
so maybe you don't fully
reaction,
believe it's the thought that counts,
exactly.
and we should recalibrate a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you do have a lot of these opportunities that are really emotional. Sometimes they've got a long history to them. And so we've just got to be mindful of when there's not a match, right? Like I got really excited about this gift because I really thought about it. I thought you'd love it. And you were like, meh. And that's where I have to go, but that's only a small piece of it.
Right.
I loved thinking about you and looking for this. And I thought that, and so I enjoyed all of that. Yeah, it wasn't quite what you wanted, but that's okay. That's only one piece of it.
Also,
you know what I mean?
Who is telling you they don't like their gift? That's so rude. But no, I get it 100% because I've received gifts from people I love that may not have been something I would ever buy for myself or wear or whatever it is. But I love that thing because I do know what went into the selection. And that to me is so powerful. So like the object itself then becomes like a symbol of that person's care, even if it's not something, again, that I would have like purchased for myself or something that I necessarily like the style of. I love it, which is, okay, so that's like me thinking the thought really does count. I guess that's not the same for everyone.
No, but no. But if I do believe that is the far greater value.
For sure.
And what I'm saying is, act like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That when you know it just, you get a sense that it didn't hit like it, but you go, well, that's only a piece of it because that gift or the food I brought or whatever is, what is it? And you go, well, it's a reflection of how you feel about them as a person in this relationship.
Right.
And the example you just talked about is we get hung up on, or, oh, I don't like that, or I don't. How about you get hung up on, wow, man, they're thoughtful about me. I have a relationship that I value, that they value. That, my gosh, man, you talk about something that we need to be more appreciative of, invest in. It's that kind of stuff.
That's a great example of expectation versus reality during the holidays. Your expectation was your boyfriend got you the piece of jewelry you had on hold at whatever store, but the reality is you got something totally different and it threw you off. Or the reality is maybe someone gave you something that didn't feel like they put a lot of thought and care into it. You also brought up, I feel like this ties in directly, how this is an opportunity, these like maybe kind of pain points during the holidays. It's an opportunity to dig a little deeper and reflect and do some self-work to really level up. I feel like that's a really cool takeaway that I haven't really thought about before. Whatever the pain point is, whether it's around gifting, family dynamics, expectations around holiday romance, or feeling like you're part of a group, this is all an opportunity to dig deep, reflect, do some introspection, and see how you can heal a little bit.
Yeah, we think, start thinking about your psychological health like you think about your work or your exercise or your ability to learn something new, and we don't. We tend to think of it in this other category. You're like, no, just try to get a little bit better this year at some aspect.
Yep.
And like families, oh my gosh, I said to somebody earlier that was struggling with something, I was like, well, listen, I don't know if you're going to find this helpful, but I spent a lot of money in about 5 years getting highly educated on psychology, and that has been of no help when it comes to the holidays and getting together with family. I'm like, zero help. Trust me, I'm more disappointed than you. But you go, none of us, I don't care what you do, none of us are immune to family dynamics, and it's because we have so much history.
Right.
And so
it's so deeply personal.
Oh my gosh, man. I mean, I would be embarrassed. I should secretly record just how I am. I'm like, my God. Unfortunately, my wife is fantastic. She does not work in the field, which means she's not the most delicate with her observations, which I find wildly entertaining. But, she'll just say something. I'm like, yeah, gosh, dog it. Why did I respond like that?
Right.
I mean,
You're still a human.
But you go, I don't have to do that. I can make a better choice I don't have to accept every invitation to argue, or I can let things go because that's the kind of person I want to be. And I don't want to, maybe it's politics or COVID, or you go, I don't have to contribute to that kind of divisive, negative discussion. I really don't. It's not the kind of person I want to be. And so if it comes up, I can, maybe I can look to have a better impact on it, or to engage in a different way.
Yes.
But we have to think of it that way of, what do I want to get better at this year? And maybe it's focusing more on the relationships and what they've done for me and how they value me, or all that went into this meal or this party is far more meaningful than how many people showed up, or did they eat everything, or did you go, gosh.
The minutia.
I may be looking at the wrong things. And so it may be user error. It may be, I asked this dinner to do more than it could.
Right.
I was
again, the expectation.
Yes. And you go, wow, what did you hope this would do? Like all of a sudden we wouldn't argue about politics, or
you were hoping that a holiday dinner would heal some kind of family trauma when it's really just a holiday dinner.
Or that we could have a wonderful, loving meal. Why did you think that? We don't have wonderful, loving conversations.
Right.
You think food is not therapy.
I mean, sometimes we think it is.
Oh yeah, we do. Yes, we do. We do. But that's for me, I think that's where it's helpful, because sometimes we ask an event or a gift to do more than it can or should.
Yes.
It should reflect how you feel about them. It should reflect how you value sort of gathering for food and fellowship. That's what it should be about. And what I should try to do, and the place I'm trying to be at, is where I stay anchored to that value. And I can do that regardless of how other people step into it. I'm more likely to find it meaningful, enjoyable when I stay anchored to that.
Love that.
So
I also, I know this is kind of feels off topic now, but like a minute or two ago, you said something I really want to call out that I think is very important for navigating family dynamics, which we will get more into. You don't have to accept every invitation to argue. I literally wrote that down as you were saying it because I was like,
Man.
oh, shit. that's
oh,
wow.
oh my
How
gosh.
did you get to that one? You don't have to accept every invitation to argue.
I don't know, but it's actually I do. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so much of what we talk about are things we're intimately acquainted with, right? So it's either people I've worked with or my own craziness, which I find wildly entertaining. And so you go, man, that's not what I want to do. How did I end up doing that? And you go, oh, I just followed these emotions. And you go, ooh, you need to follow a few more thoughts. My mix is off. I got to have more ration and reason and thoughtfulness of, I don't want to be, like if it's just us talking, you go, hey, what kind of dude do you want to be, Kev? And I'm like, oh, I want to be one that's agitating, that when I know you're talking about something, I can see a way to agitate you and upset you. I wouldn't say that.
No.
And you're like, no, I want to be thoughtful of others. I want to learn. I want to grow. I don't want to say too much. So you go, okay, well, man, how do I let things go more? And honestly, there's a part of it too that when I look around broadly and go, wow, are we acting as a group in a way that's consistent with our values? And a lot of times we're not.
Right.
And I'm just as guilty. I'm like, okay, do I value that the discussion about COVID more than I value my friend,
right,
or my 25 years together?
My relationship.
Because I'm sounding like it's more important, and it's not.
Right.
And so
it's like a reassessment of values. Again, you bring up this great point that I think is going to continue to be a theme through the rest of our chat, through the holiday season for everyone else. All of these pain points that tend to be heightened or brought to the surface during holiday events, the holiday season, are opportunities to do this type of reflection. Like, am I behaving in a way that is aligned with my values? Do I value being right in an argument or winning or putting this person in their place, whatever it is, more than I value the relationship? Maybe for some people, that's what it's going to mean. Maybe that relationship isn't valuable to you. Like, good for you. But
I was wondering. In fact, I don't like that guy. No, but I'd rather you decide that and go, you know what, I don't like them. Okay, well, you don't have to be hurtful.
Exactly.
I mean, is that the kind of person you want to be? And I think, the holidays, really, honestly, I hadn't thought about this, but I'm doing some work with a number of different companies as you look at how are we doing as employees in this 2.5 years. And man, I've talked to employer group after employer group about how much they're struggling with employees and coworkers and the culture. And so I'm doing some work with this company. And one thing I said was, okay, you keep saying you don't like the culture here. You don't like the way this company is. I'm like, okay, well, you realize that you are part of that thing you don't like.
Right.
So my question is, what have you done to improve it? What are the little things you've done to have a encouraging, positive, thoughtful impact? Or are we just continuing to verbalize our
distaste,
what we don't like? Yeah, and so there's no ownership of, well, I can have an impact here. I could, in my own little space or my own little gathering, I can have an encouraging, positive, uplifting interaction. Now, it doesn't mean it has to be fake,
right,
but gosh, what are you doing to contribute to this being a nice evening or a conversation?
Right. Okay, so this is what you're saying. This might feel a little off topic, but I'm going to bring it back in, I promise. Like, the lack of awareness around mental health, the taboos around mental health, the way that we've just approached mental health culturally in the past decades, I think has contributed to externalization of our problems. And there are veritable times in which our problems are external. Like, that's totally valid. But what you brought up is not realizing that you are also contributing to something reminds me a lot about the whole Britney Spears controversy with like the paparazzi and her downfall and all of those things that led up to like the 2008 conservatorship. And people are aghast at the media looking back at like Us Weekly and the tabloids and the way that she was treated by paparazzi, which are all very bad things. And this isn't like an either or, but and those people were also buying the magazines. The magazines wouldn't have been like continually chasing this woman and this story if people weren't eating it up. And there's no reflection to the role that each individual played in continuing that woman's abuse by the media. Like it's all of us, like whether or not you took the photos like as the paparazzi or published the article, like if you were buying those magazines and reading the gossip, like you're just as much a part of it. So I know that's a little bit of a tangent, but I think that it's linked to how we talk about mental health. Like we don't look at our own actions so much. Yeah.
And I think the thread that probably made you think about that is you go, okay, well, just ask yourself, what role did I have in making this evening really wonderful or unpleasant or, and instead of, and I see it as in a larger context of society or Instagram of going, okay, but you're acting as if you have no role in this. And we, especially when it comes to the holidays and family and friends or coworkers, we are in it. We have a role. And I think when we start to look at, okay, what can I do? What's within arm's reach that I can do to help or contribute to how this goes?
Yes.
And that I can actually get hopeful about. But if you were to ask me, and sometimes people ask me, oh, what do you think we have to do as a society? I'm like, I have zero expectation or confidence in the government or large agencies helping us be better humans.
Yep.
I have zero.
Yeah.
And whether that's racially, sexually, culturally, spiritually, I'm like, I have zero confidence in that. But what I have a lot of confidence in is me stepping in with you or him or her and going, no, I can have a kind and thoughtful interaction.
Yep.
And that, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I can, that's something I can do. And so when it comes to holidays and mood or relationships or expectations, manage yours.
Yep.
And if some of those things are reliant on somebody else, like, I want this to, I want everybody to enjoy this evening. You're like, oh, okay, well, is that within your arm's reach? That answer should be no. How about you look at, hey, I want to enjoy this evening and have some wonderful conversations. I hope other people do too.
Yep.
But that one I can't do.
I love this concept of personal agency because I think it will be really empowering as we outline what I'm going to call the 4 major holiday stressors. And we can talk about how to take more personal agency over your happiness and stress management in each of these areas. I want to cover financial, physical, familial, and I guess loneliness. I didn't have lonelial as a word, but we'll get into that one too. But starting with the first one, money can be tight for a lot of individuals and families at the holiday season, especially now with inflation, the recession. In terms of financial mental health, do you see this a lot with your practice? Have you seen it, personally with your interpersonal relationships? Do you have advice for, I guess, taking agency, finding your own happiness, overcoming? It's a really hard thing to do, obviously. Like, I feel like financial mental health is like a huge topic in and of itself. But during the holiday season, what are your thoughts here?
Oh, man. There is real and there's perceived, right? There's my real. I look at my bank account. I look at what I'm spending. And then there's the perceived. And by that, I mean, I hear about a recession or things are costing more, or I hear people talk about being worried about layoffs or things shutting down. And that's a real thing. And you just have to be aware that it's always both of those. And so you want to be knowledgeable about, okay, where's the economy going? what are sort of people saying financially we should think about, but then come back to you. Look at your bank account, look at your savings, look at your salary, and then make decisions that are thoughtful. And if at all possible, have a goal. We just do better with a goal.
Yeah.
Even if it's go way past it, okay, well, why'd you go way past it? And what you may find is, well, there was actually an outlier that I was doing pretty good. I only wanted to spend or to do this much. And I went a little bit over because something came up that I didn't anticipate. Okay. But you learned a little. Yep. And so have a goal. And I say that, and some years my wife and I do a really good job of having a goal. And then some years it's like, wow, well, that was a little out of hand. And you go, okay, well, then have a discussion about, learn from it.
Yep. Again, an opportunity.
Yes. But man, be careful, because when we start to accumulate debt, it can really, some people more than others, it can really add to our psychological stress in a significant way.
Yeah. I feel like financial stress in general, like I've read stats on it being, it can lead to suicide. Like it's a really scary thing for a lot of people. Well, and again, it's the combination of both perceived and real financial stress. And it weighs on you in so many areas. And I think especially when you're like, oh, I've got to have presents for everyone and decorate the house and a higher energy bill and, this and that.
I know.
It can really add up.
Yes. And remember, we're still not doing real well. I mean, we've spent 2.5 years on the struggle bus. Yeah. And so you're like, hey,
we're still not off.
No, we're not. I mean, and so you just go, hey, be mindful of that we can't afford to add too many more things that are stressful, and finances can be stressful.
Yep.
So yeah, we got to be really cautious with that.
One of the best tips I got about managing any kind of monetary or financial stress was to look at my budget and, spending habits without judgment, which is a really challenging thing to do, but to have a little bit more graciousness with myself and just look at the numbers as just neutral, like morally neutral. Yep. It was a really interesting concept, and maybe everyone knows this already, but I did not. And having that kind of moral neutrality toward my spending, budgeting habits, et cetera, really helped soften. I'm still working on it, but it softened how hard I am on myself.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that resonates with anyone listening. I hope it's helpful.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because one of the things that I say something really similar to folks, which is, look, just try to step back from your situation and you, and just drain it of all color. Yep. Just look at it as black and white, as a data point that you're trying to get an understanding of. So don't have any emotion and don't take it personal.
Yep.
You just want to see it as black and white. So I want to get information from it.
Yep. It's just numbers in, numbers out. Honestly, at this point, it's like digital pixels on a screen that are just like changing numbers. And you don't actually have money in hand, like physical paper.
Yeah.
It's like all kind of made up, but like it's still very real. So I want to, acknowledge and validate that. But
I think that's great.
The moral neutrality has been really helpful. Well, thank you. I'm glad that it is doctor approved.
Yes, it is. It is Dr. G approved.
Yes.
No, it is a great strategy. It really is. Because you're allowing more rational thought and less emotion.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Well, I hope that's helpful for anyone listening. On to the next pillar, I would say physical stress, worries about weight, holiday food, and treats. I personally would love to start this by saying, as a certified health and nutrition coach, I know that people on average statistically gain 1 pound during the holidays, and the stress about holiday food, in my semi-professional opinion, is more detrimental to you and your health than the food itself could ever be. Like the stress itself is a toxin and the food is not so much. Like how often throughout the year are you drinking eggnog? Like you're not. It's not even in the store. So like that's my advice. Do you have any advice about like stress around like food and holiday treats?
Oh my gosh. I so appreciate you saying that. Like I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And you go, wow, really? 1 pound? Well, maybe wow. And again, that's the real versus perceived. And you're like,
Exactly.
gosh, okay. Now, the one thing we have to be mindful of is we all gained us some weight over COVID.
COVID weight for
And
sure. The
oh my
tables
God,
have turned.
oh my gosh. So I don't know if I've told you this, and since it's just you and I talking, I feel better saying it. Well, we've talked plenty of times before we recorded, just going,
Yeah.
gosh, dog, is an encouraging thing to people. Hopefully it's encouraging. I don't care how much you know about these subjects. At the end of the day, you're still a human.
Yep.
You're still part of a family. And you and I know a lot about health. We've done our share of really healthy endeavors of eating or doing endurance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And man, our physical health, our weight and nutrition intake it's like a wave on an ocean. We all want it to be a flat, steady line.
Yeah.
And there are some people like that. They're the exception. So let's look at the majority of us. The majority of us, food and physical activity are going to wax and wane. They're going to go up and down.
Yep.
And during COVID was the heaviest I've ever weighed in my life.
Yeah.
And
you're
I'm
a
like,
super athlete. You're a triathlete.
oh my.
Iron Man.
and yeah. And I just was, and I even knew it was stress. It was bad habits. It was all the fundamentals.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it starts affecting you psychologically,
Mm-hmm.
and it wears on you. And I'm like, man, and it just became one of my priorities of, okay, I am eating in a way that I know better. How do I slowly start chipping away at it? And knowing, and this is where I think it relates to the holidays, knowing that I'm going to be in situations that are more difficult than others,
Mm-hmm.
and that I value being smart a lot more than I do being strong. And
love that.
for me, those are my cheat codes. So I'm like, no, I'm not buying that stuff, and that stuff's not going to be in my house. And if it's not in my house, I'm not going to get dressed and go to the store and get it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
You
so
don't have pregnancy cravings. Like, it's not that strong.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think being smart around the holidays is plan ahead. And you go, okay, to your point, I love the 1 pound. And you go, okay, if I know, like I've got a party that we're going to Saturday night. Okay, well, today and tomorrow and Saturday, I'm going to be more mindful of what I eat. And I may try to be a little more physically active.
Right.
And so you go, that's just thinking ahead and planning ahead.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to eat pizza tonight, a burger and fries tomorrow, skip all sorts of physical activity, and then roll hot into a Christmas party where you're going to be around food that you're never around for another 12 months.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right. You can't get eggnog year round. And so you go, okay, well, I want to enjoy that evening, so I'm going to be mindful leading up to it. And there's either that as a strategy, or I'm going to be more thoughtful about some fundamentals of how I eat, and I'm going to slow down.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my the gap between my brain and my belly is about 20 minutes. So I'm going to eat a little bit slower. I'm going to enjoy what I'm eating.
I know it's funny. You enjoy your food more, and it actually like slows you down, and like you fill up faster. So like enjoy.
Totally does.
You get more benefit from slowing down and enjoying your food more, which is crazy to think about than if you had just like inhaled it.
Exactly.
I do also want to bring up like
plan ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't want to cut off your tip.
No. That was it. I mean, just to planning ahead and thinking ahead is huge.
Yeah.
And you'll enjoy it more.
Yep. I love the idea of just adding that balance in. I also want to point out that I think both of us are approaching our physical bodies from like a weight neutral place, like the pound isn't good or bad kind of thing. Like both of us are looking at our nutrients, our overall health and well-being, what feels good for our own bodies, like what our happy, healthy weight is. This isn't about like being fat phobic or, oh my God, you can't get fat during the holidays, you got to lose it afterward. This is like the finances, looking at numbers in, numbers out, neutral. and just figuring out what feels good for your body, what you know, like you know your body better than anyone else, what you know to be your perfect state of health, your optimal state of health. And if you're worried about holiday food throwing off your optimal state of health, this is the strategy. Like he was saying, planning ahead. I love the idea of slowing down and savoring your food more, letting yourself enjoy it.
Yeah, because I'm so glad you said that. I'm like, look, fat is just a medical term. And I care, and and there have been other times in my life where I cared more about how I looked, and I still do a little, but it's in a healthier place. I think what has shifted for me over time is I care more about my physical functioning and my psychological health.
Yep,
and my
exactly.
quality of life. And what you see with moderate to significant weight gain is a decrease in quality of life and satisfaction in life. And that is psychological. And so whatever your weight is or your body is, you can be inspired by other people, but don't compare to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just come back to, what are you wanting to do? I want to have more energy. I want to sleep better. I want to enjoy how I'm doing at work. And all of those things are influenced by this physical sort of body of ours.
Yep.
So,
and if you're stressing about the food, I keep coming back to this. The stress is more dangerous for your body than a Christmas cookie. The stress is more dangerous for your body than a slice of pie. The stress is more difficult for your body than a hot chocolate. Like, just enjoy the food, slow down, really savor it. Like, and if it makes you feel better, just add in healthy food. Don't take anything away. I feel like you'll naturally eat maybe less of the more like calorie-rich, sugar-rich foods if you're also like, I'm going to make a bunch of my favorite healthy foods. Like I really love like, I don't know, asparagus or sauteed spinach with my food. Like add in some greens. Just add good stuff and enjoy the yummy stuff and it'll all even itself out. I really believe in this. And I'm technically a professional.
Yes, you are. You absolutely are. One of the big things that I've picked up from you and other people like you is y'all never say bad foods.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? You
Right?
also never say diet. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, for a very good reason.
Yeah.
It's not cookies or pizza. Those things aren't bad.
Exactly.
What's bad is how we use them. And you go, look, slow down, enjoy them. It's the quantity, it's the frequency, it's the, hey, man, have a cookie right when you get there. I mean, enjoy it. Don't, you know what I mean? Don't overeat and then throw that in. You go, no, just, there aren't any rules. Your parents aren't here. And if they are, who cares? You're a grown-ass adult.
You're a grown-ass adult.
Eat your cookie, man. You're a grown-ass adult. Eat your cookie.
It's like what you said. Don't use food as therapy. Like get actual therapy and then enjoy your food as food. It's just food.
Yes. There you go.
I think you've probably heard from me and other people who grew up during the like heroin chic, like late 90s, early aughts, when like low-rise jeans and being emaciated was the like ultimate like standard of beauty. And I think a lot of us have been kind of trying to combat that mindset for a long time. Yeah. And so we still have like relics of that time that come up again during the holidays about like, oh, well, like your New Year's cleanse or what to eat after Thanksgiving, like let's reset. And it's like, there's merit to resetting after you have a huge day of like binging a bunch of food for sure. But I also think like shifting that mindset, and I keep coming back to the same concept, like moral neutrality for food, moral neutrality for weight, moral neutrality for our finances, like not assigning like this is good, this is bad, I think is going to be helpful as well.
Yeah. And, I will say, because we've talked about men and women, yes, what you guys have had to endure for decades and millennia about body image and what's beautiful and what's healthy and that sort of unhealthy presentation of the emaciated appearance. And those things sometimes can linger even though we've moved on. And I say all that to say, I'm glad it's just you and I talking. I did step into doing a lot of health things and triathlon stuff. And I ended up doing 3 Ironman races. And you put your body through so much, and I was eating really clean and healthy, but I was also burning tremendous amount of calories, and you get in this some of the best physical fitness you've ever been in, but your relationship with food and your physical appearance and functioning, candidly, God, the last one I did was, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. I still wrestle with that at times.
Wow.
Because it is such a consuming, intensive effort over months and months and months and months that it'll leave fingerprints even when you've moved on.
Yep.
And so
it's deep.
Oh my gosh, man. And if you're vulnerable, and do you know how you know if you're vulnerable?
Please tell me. I'm just like, I am.
Yeah. Here's how you. That's so funny. Yeah. Do you know how you know you're vulnerable? Yes. No. That's not that. That's, you've already answered. No. How do you know? Well, after it happens, and you go, oh, that's not good. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's true for all of us. I have no idea what my vulnerabilities are until now I know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. After the fact.
After the fact. So just that achieving, competitive, driven nature. Oh my gosh, man. We could talk for an hour about how I don't have an eating disorder. That's just a rough challenge.
Yep.
But I definitely developed disordered eating.
For sure. Yeah.
I was just, and still that residual with your body and the image and how it functions and performs and you feel.
Yep.
Ooh.
It's like bordering orthorexia almost, like adjacent, which is an eating disorder in itself.
Okay, well, I appreciate you putting a label on it like that. Yes.
Sometimes labels suck, and sometimes they're like contextualizing.
Yeah, no, it was both. It both sucks, and it's incredibly accurate. I should have been mindful who I was saying all of that to. Yes, orthorexia is, fire up your Google machine, and that's what you end up wrestling with after something like when you are engaged in those really good, healthy things. They can sometimes, if you have some vulnerabilities, they can lead to some of those things. You're like, ooh,
exactly.
Yeah, orthorexia is a thing. And you go, yeah, okay, well, now that I know what that thing is, I can start doing some things that are different and that counter that and that are about getting a little bit better.
Yep. Exactly. So, about improving your relationship with food and your body. I think a lot of us in the health space, no matter what area of the health space we're in, have had a little dance with orthorexia, especially if we have, like you were saying, like a proclivity for achievement or control or whatever it is. We can find ourselves maybe obsessing a little bit over what is healthy and what isn't. And that's why I'm so adamant about not assigning moral value to food. Because I am right there with you. Like, if I get into that at all and think I can have this, I can't have this, it's a downward spiral. So I have worked very hard on that for myself. And I'm hoping that this resonates with some listeners as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope me sharing a little bit more, I'm like, look, this used to just be a female thing.
Right. It's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's just not. And with males, you would only see it, almost the only place I've seen it, and I've been working with folks for 30 years, is wrestlers.
Interesting.
Because they have to cut weight. And so you're vulnerable to some of these behaviors. But now there are far more of us, I think, men that have wrestled with it for various different reasons.
Yeah, and it's not talked about. I've seen, men in my life have a difficult relationship with food or an unhealthy approach to eating. And it's just not talked about as much as we do just with our, heteronormative gender norms and all that. Like we typically only focus on women. And that's not to say that like we shouldn't be. Like obviously this impacts a lot of women too. But I think it's important to remember that eating issues come up regardless of your gender or gender identity. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. No. Well, there you go. So there we go.
Well, that's what it's called, people. There you go.
There it
Fire
is.
up your Google machine.
Well, speaking of food, I happened to watch the Thanksgiving episode of Gossip Girl in season 3 yesterday while I was typing up our little our outline for what we would talk about today. But it immediately, that episode in particular, if you know what I'm talking about, you do. If you haven't seen it, it's just chaos. And it immediately made me feel better about my own family dynamic. But I was thinking like, okay, this like, you know, soap opera drama that's playing out at a Thanksgiving table is probably not that far off for a lot of people listening. So we've been talking a little bit about like the holiday dinner table, but I would love to know what's in your holiday mental health toolkit. That's the word I'm using. It sounds kind of buzzy. When it comes to navigating, you know, challenging family dynamics, whether that's difficult relationships with your in-laws, estranged parents, co-parenting, there are a lot of different dynamics that come into play this time of year.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is get some options. Now, sometimes we're so close to a situation, we can't get options because we're so emotional. So it doesn't have to be a counselor or a therapist. Get somebody that knows you really well, or somebody that seems to, you know from work or where, you know, other little communities you're involved in, and go, hey, let me get your thoughts on something. How do you navigate, you know, and then lay that out there for them. And you just want options. And you go, okay, yeah, one of those is don't go. You actually can you don't have to go. Oh, yes, I do. No, let's be clear about this. From an actual literal sense, you do not have to. Now, you feel the family's power and influence and guilt or whatever it is that I don't feel like I have a choice. Well, if you're a grown-ass adult, you do have a choice. And so you're going to have to put what qualifies as a grown-ass adult in the notes. But you go, okay, it is an option. It may not be one you pick, but put all the options out there. And the other option is, well, can I go with a friend, or can I go with someone else, or who do I sit by?
Right.
And
strategy.
That's it. And you go, look, you don't have to talk to everybody. You don't have to engage in this discussion. You can, if there's a discussion that's coming up or things that are being talked about, you know, you're probably going to be at a place where you can go, oh, yeah, hey, where's the restroom? Most every place you go, there's going to be a restroom.
Yeah, true.
And so you go, yeah, just go to, or a tree. And you go, okay, so, you know.
I said true, but not a tree.
Yeah, true. I think true or tree. I'm like, yeah, okay. I guess if you're doing
For sure.
in the woods or the mountain, yeah, go a tree. A tree will work.
Just thinking about escaping to go pee behind a tree. Sorry.
I'm like, okay, well, yeah, go to a tree. I guess you do.
You do you.
Christmas out in the woods. You do. Okay, that's one way y'all
adventurous holiday. But, anyway, there's a bathroom.
Camping for Christmas. Look, there's a bathroom. So, but again, it's a little thing of, I'm just going to get up and go. And you can do that without saying. We make the mistake of thinking we have to announce why we're leaving or why we don't want to talk about something. Right. No, you don't. You can just say, hey, yeah, where's the restaurant? I'm going to go get some water. Can I get anybody any water? And you go, there are a million ways not to engage, but still be part of something. And so that's what you want to be able to do is you want to have options.
Yeah, your exit strategy.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, and if it's about alcohol, because you've made some changes or you've reduced it and it's a big alcohol event, go, okay, well, there's a million ways to not drink.
Yep.
You can either tell people, no, you don't feel well when they offer you something, or you can say, oh, no, I'm just going to have some water. And the same with food, right? Eat until you're full. And I don't care if there's still food on your plate. You shouldn't either. But people are weird about food. If they made it, they're like, oh, you didn't like it? No, I did like it. I am full.
Or if your family's Italian and they're like, no, eat.
Exactly. Eat, more eating, and go, hey, no, I'm just taking a break.
Right.
I do love it. So instead of saying sometimes I'm full, it can lead to more questions like, no, I'm just taking a break. I'm just resting a bit.
Totally.
Because people are they don't tend to keep walking in on that. And so just look for little ways to still be at this or at that, but you get some distance.
Exactly.
And if it's alcohol and you're looking at reducing, well, yes, if they offer you a drink, hang on to it and just walk around with it all the time.
Yep.
Pour it a little bit out somewhere when you go to the bathroom, pour it a little bit out. And then you've still got that drink. You're like, no, I'm good.
That's my college strategy.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Totally.
But it also applies with food.
Yep.
It also applies with conversations. And you just want options. And man, it's also an option to say, I just can't make it this year. That is okay.
Yep.
It just is. And there are a million ways to not go without lying.
Totally.
And it can be financially. It can be how you feel. It can be how you work, or your workload, or go for a little bit and leave.
Yeah, I think the temporary or permanent exit strategy is so important. Like if it's just going for a walk, running an errand, getting people water, escaping to the bathroom, like definitely give yourself those breathers. I think it brings up the point that you brought up earlier. What part do I play in this? And it's easy, particularly in these dynamics, to think, okay, it's external. Like these are the people who are behaving badly or taking advantage of me. And that's still true. And you have the agency and the personal power to have a boundary. If you don't have a boundary, then you're playing a part in your own misery. I feel like that sounds really harsh.
Yeah. No, but you have some control. There are things you can do, even though you know, there are things out of your control. There are absolutely things that are within arm's reach. You just got to be creative. And sometimes it's hard to be creative with family. That's why I say talk to somebody. Just figure out a strategy. So here's a fun fact. As long as it's just you and I and
for sure. Super private combo.
Since we've already, it's so stinking funny. I talk about my disordered eating, and you're like, oh, you mean orthorexia? I'm like, dang it, I forgot what she does for a living. So I love that. So here's the other thing is, and I do enjoy family. I love being at stuff, but I tend to actually be on the quiet side, which is, I know, you're like, you, Kev? And I'm like, yeah, I really am.
I'm the same,
one
so
of
I
my
get it.
strategies, one of my strategies when it ends up being one of those huge Thanksgiving or Christmas deals, and you ask any of my grown-ass children, and they'll tell you, if you were to ask them, hey, what's Dr. G's strategy? You won't even finish your question. They'll be like, he's doing dishes. And I'm like,
oh, nice.
Okay. Oh, I am now, one, I'm the dish man at home because I had those jobs growing up as a kid.
Amazing.
But I absolutely use it to kind of carve out a little, I'm kind of done talking right now.
Right.
But I'm also helping because people don't really talk to you when you're doing dishes.
It's so true. And they can't hear you over the rushing water and like the clattering of the dish. Yeah, totally.
And you're trying to look at doing dishes. And so, listen, I hope none of my family are listening to this, but you're like, right, because you're right. You can I'm looking at the dish while you're talking, so I don't have to engage.
Right.
Just be creative. There are a lot of ways. Dish and trash man. If it's a big event, I'll pick this up. Or I do try to be thoughtful, but I'm clearly doing that to just carve out a little quiet space in the midst of a crowd.
Yeah, I love this. Like
got to be creative.
I love that you brought this up because I feel like we are so similar in that we can be very extroverted in our interpersonal relationships, but I tend to be in general more introverted, where I need a lot of social battery recharge time. And when my social battery is at its like drain point, but I'm still at some kind of event, like a family holiday event or any kind of social event, I start to panic a little bit. Like I get really bad anxiety. I've been known to like Irish exit from events and just like get in an Uber and disappear. And you can't always do that at a family gathering or a holiday event. So
no, you can't.
I love this. I am going to look at dishes very differently now.
There you go. Yeah, that's one of my go-tos. And like you said, you go, okay, when I'm starting to feel like my battery light's flashing or my head's getting really busy, just go into the other room and sit down for a second, or just lay down, or go in and watch the TV, or sit in another room and read. And, if people are like, oh, what are you doing? Go, no, it's just kind of relaxing a little bit. You can do any number of those things, all of those things, and never forget Uber. It is.
Yeah, true.
It's spectacular. So
I
you got
haven't used it in
options.
so long because of COVID and everything. And I'm just like, oh, remember when I
Yep.
could just get in an Uber and escape from a party?
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big fan.
It's
Big
like
fan.
the introvert
That's so
anthem.
funny. Yeah. That's so genius.
I love what you also brought up about, you don't necessarily have to pre-book therapy if you can. I think it's a great idea. If you can talk to a counselor or a coach beforehand, great idea. Or you have a strategy session with a trusted confidant, a friend or family member, maybe even someone who's going to be at the events you're going to be at, and just come up with it together. I feel like collaborating with my brother sometimes is always a fun one.
Yes.
So if you have someone there or just someone on the outside, like your best friend, that you can, just talk through your concerns with, I think that's a wonderful idea. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Yep.
Speaking of our friendships and relationships, we have talked about this a lot. You've talked about this a lot in recent years, thanks to COVID. Loneliness. There are so many statistics and surveys that corroborate that, it is worse at the holidays. I saw a survey from this past January that saw 55% of Americans, more than half of us, felt lonely during the holidays, and 75% of Gen Zers felt lonely during the holidays. It breaks my heart. I have so much empathy and pain for these people. What advice do you have to anyone feeling isolated and lonely? And I would like to also point out, you don't have to be alone to feel lonely. You can be surrounded by other people and still feel like you're not seen or you're not heard or you're not welcome or you can't be yourself. This isn't exclusive to just being physically isolated.
Yes. You can be around a lot of people and feel lonely.
Yep.
We have to be aware of how negative loneliness is for us physically and psychologically.
Yes.
It's not only is it not good for us to enjoy life, it actually decreases our physical health and longevity in significant ways. And so, it's a significant enough problem that when you look in the UK, over in London, they have a minister of loneliness.
Whoa.
For an elderly population.
Wow.
And our ex-Surgeon General, maybe going back about 5 years, talked about the growing concerns of loneliness in the U.S., not just with elderly, but with some of the young adults.
Yeah.
And
75% of Gen Z.
Yeah. Yes.
Crazy.
And there is a researcher, I believe she's out of Utah, that talks about isolation and loneliness is as negatively impacting on our physical health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yes. And you go, oh, that's bad. Yes, it is bad because we are relational at our core. And you and I, as we've talked, we're not extroverts. I'm a small tribe kind of person. I work with a guy that is a big tribe kind of person. And I'm like, dude, you give me a rash when I'm around you. You talk to everybody. Oh, hey, what do you? And I'm like, no, I'll walk smooth past. I'm like,
please
no,
don't.
my battery light's flashing. I mean, but I need a certain number of folks that are significant in my life. And we all do. Yep. And they have to be real people as much as is possible for us.
Really in person.
In person. And when you look at, I bet you have Blue Zone. Is it Blue Zones?
Yeah, the Blue Zones.
Yeah, love that. And you go, okay, well, which is these pockets all across the world where, as that author says, and he looks at the research, he's like, it's like people forgot to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they all, these big populations that live over 100.
Centurions,
and you go, yes, and you go, wow, what are some of those core elements? One of those are meaningful, loving relationships.
It's so true. I've written about this. So if anyone listening is unfamiliar with Blue Zones, it's Okinawa, Japan. Oh, gosh, I can't remember the place in Costa Rica. It's a specific part of Costa Rica, Sardinia, a specific island in Greece. I think it's Ikaria in Greece. And Loma Linda, California, which is a Seventh-day Adventist community. Obviously, they're very different populations, but like Dr. G just said, one of the through lines in their health plan, or I guess the health metrics that the researchers deduced, was these meaningful relationships. Like in Sardinia, they have, I think it's passeggiata. After a meal, you go for a walk together. which is
Oh,
also great for digestion, but they have
yep,
these different kind of aspects of their community that keep them bonded, which is, like we're saying right now, so important.
yep, yep. That's so. When it comes to isolation and loneliness, it it has a direct impact on our physical health. Now, for me, that's such good news. And I'm just am adamant about dispelling this myth that our psychological health is only from a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Right.
No. That's yes, that may be a piece for some people, but here are the other things that we can all be mindful of that should be on our psychological dashboard, just
Yep.
like we have a physical dashboard, and you go, you need to be connected to people. We all do. Now, that doesn't mean a lot of people. So when I talk to clients that I see, when first thing, I'm an introvert, I'm like, so am I. So that's not what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right? Because even introverts still need relations.
Yes. We
And
still have like
I'm not,
social proclivity. Like we
yes,
want to be
yeah,
around people. It's just like smaller amounts, specific people we're
yeah,
comfortable with. We can turn
yeah.
on the social
When I,
charms, but we just need some
yeah,
more recharge time.
yeah, yeah, exactly. When I say I'm an introvert, it doesn't mean I don't cut my hair and I've got long, creepy nails. No, man, I interact with people. I enjoy it,
I
but
just
not as
envisioned you with
much
a
as,
wig and
yeah,
nails.
exactly. Some kind of weird Einsteinian looking freakish thing. And
Hmm.
you go, no, I need that. And that's actually really good news. So you go, wow, Kev, so you're telling me that just going and spending time with someone who kind of knows what I'm going through, let's say
Yeah.
maybe it's a divorce or in between jobs, and they get me and know me. They're not going to try to artificially prop my mood up. They're easy for me to be with. Yeah, go be with those folks.
Hmm.
Well, they're married and they've got kids. Well, did they invite you? Yeah. Well, then maybe because they want you. So
Yeah.
why don't you take them up on it? Stop overthinking it, because you can go and be a part of it for a few hours and then leave. But that's good for your physical and psychological health. So that for me is why when we look broadly at our health and you come across something like blue zones, I love that,
Hmm.
because those activities and being physically active and the fellowship and relationships, you're like, oh, well, now that's something I can do. I
Yeah.
can work on that.
You have the
So,
power, you have the agency, and
yes.
loneliness can feel disempowering because,
Oof.
it's like you said, it's one of the worst things we experience psychologically and physically, which those two things are inextricably linked anyway.
Yes.
But it's one of
Yes,
the
they are.
worst experiences you can have, that feeling of isolation and loneliness.
It's
But you
awful. It is.
you do have
It's
power.
dangerous.
You have
Yes.
agency. Try to connect with any kind of group. And I know it's hard, especially when you're, feeling depressed about it, right? Like that's one of the
Yeah.
toughest times to feel like I'm going to kick ass and turn my mental health around. I get
Yeah.
it.
And I don't care how you feel, right?
Yeah.
I don't care how you feel. I got home. I've been traveling a lot for work, and I got to the hotel late. This is actually a hotel. It was over in Alabama. And by the time I got to the hotel, it was like after midnight. I was really tired. And if I had to be candid, again, since it's just us having this little conversation, you go, hey, Kev, do you feel like brushing your teeth? No, man. I
Not
just
at
want
all.
to get to sleep I want to get to sleep as quick as I can. Well, not feeling like brushing my teeth has no relevance. I don't care how I feel. I'm
Right.
brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
I don't need to wonder if that's healthy or should I or should not. No, don't overthink it. I know, be honest, I've already asked that question. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to brush my teeth every evening.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I also do it in the morning and sometimes in between. Feel the need. So you just go, you don't need to wonder, hey, I don't feel like.
Yeah.
Well, I know you don't feel like it. Sometimes even you, me, I have to do it because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt it's good for me. So even though I don't feel like it, I'm still going to do a little bit.
Totally.
We can't allow how we feel to dictate everything. Now, that doesn't mean, because I don't mainly, I don't do things when I absolutely don't feel like doing it.
Right.
But I don't allow that thought or that emotion to dictate all my choices, because there are times that we overthink it and we know it's good. We just got to do it. Just step into it.
I love that you brought up the teeth brushing, because that actually is something that's linked with depression. There have been studies that have linked chronic or, major depressive episodes to a lack of brushing teeth, gingivitis. So if you're in that category where something as simple and basic in, your normal life feels really challenging, that is the time to get extra support. That's not like, okay, just like snap out of it and go find a friend. If you're in that kind of state where something like brushing teeth or going out to talk to someone feels like someone just asked you to run a marathon with no training, that's your time to really, if you are able to, at least phone a friend to try to help and get to a mental health care provider, or call your insurance, nurse line, whatever it is. There are a lot of resources out there. I will link those in the episode description. If you are feeling beyond winter blues and veritably depressed, there are a lot of resources. I know that loneliness can really trigger depression for a lot of people, especially if you're predisposed or you struggle with the condition in general. So I'm glad you brought up the teeth brushing thing, because it really did remind me, like, this is linked with major depressive episodes.
Yes. And same with reducing the common cold. When you don't have good oral hygiene, you actually increase the likelihood of catching the common cold. Yeah.
So that's going to keep you depressed. You're going to be sick too.
Not good, people. Little things can surprise us. And man, that's such good news.
Yep. So if you're in a better place than that, and you're feeling lonely, but you're in I'm still brushing my teeth and showering kind of life state, first of all, like, pat yourself on the back. That's great. And second of all, you really have to take personal agency in fostering or building new connections.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
So speaking of depression, segue into our last topic. I feel like we just got some really great tips and tools for not just surviving holidays, but really empowering ourselves and feeling good about it, and really enjoying the food, having exits if family stuff isn't great, but also like redefining our relationships and like, what can I do to make this better? Like, what do I value and am I acting in the way that I value? And assigning moral neutrality to our spending and our finances. And hopefully these things are going to help everyone listening really embrace this season. I know everyone celebrates different types of winter holidays, but I feel like the themes are pretty similar across the board. If you're not celebrating any holidays, or if you're listening to this past the holidays and you're dealing with some post-holiday blues, winter depression, seasonal affective disorder, I like to call it the SADS, Dr. G, focusing on this particular branch of mental health, what do we need to know about, seasonal depression, seasonal affective disorder?
So first of all, yes, it is a real thing. And if you think about it, seasons changing for a lot of different reasons impact us physically and psychologically. The sun's out longer, or the dark comes quicker. Our routines shift. The fall has a lot of activities in terms of sports and holidays. Spring has less. Sometimes it's the temperature, it's the cold, it's the warm. I love, like, just that my bride and I, she loves the summer. I like the summer too. I love the winter. I just love the winter for the colors and the changes. And you go, oh, she is not digging the winter. And so you go, okay, well, what you want to look at is, do you have a pattern where, every year, this time of year, I just kind of get sad. Like you said, the post-holiday lull, and you go, I can't remember. What's the first holiday after New Year's? I mean, we go
Valentine's.
A couple of weeks.
Yeah. And that's not everyone's favorite holiday.
Don't get me started on Valentine's. Okay, so let's say it is Valentine's. But, we go for a month or two, and you go, oh, so I don't have any of that structured I'm going to see or get together with, or it has, it's giving me some energy. And so we do know that when we study mood, it doesn't have to do with temperature. It doesn't, it has to do with a lot of different things.
Yeah.
One of the big pieces, a lot of factors. One of the big pieces is sunshine, actually.
Yeah. It's a huge one for me.
Weather gets, it's a big one for a lot of people because it triggers, we have this internal clock, and it doesn't matter where you are and when you work. Our bodies are really synced up with the sun rising and the sun falling. And so it starts us off and it slows us down, and it releases a lot of chemicals that have to do with our mood and also have to do with sleep. And so you want to be mindful of, do you have a pattern of, I tend to get down this time of year? For some people, it may be the holidays. For any number of reasons, who cares? Like you said, strip it of all emotion, all judgment and morality, and just go, okay, do I have a pattern? And patterns are just about dots on months. And you go, okay, do I tend to have a good mood here or a down mood here? And you're like, wow, my mood tends to start dipping down.
We're trending downward.
Yeah, we're trending down in October, November, December, or in January, February, March. Go, oh, okay, well, that may be because of melatonin or serotonin. It also may be because my routine is gone. Right, because there's a lot of routine to the fall of, if you've got kids, you're like, nope, we're at this on Friday nights, we're at this on Saturday nights. Or I know if you enjoy social activities, but you're not someone that sort of starts it.
You're not the instigator.
You're not the instigator. Then you go, oh, well, then January, February, March may be really hard for you because there's nothing for you to go and participate in. And so you feel a little bit more withdrawn. So there are a number of reasons. And when we look at it statistically, yes, people definitely have moods that'll kind of get up a little bit. And sometimes they'll swing the other way and be down. All you really care about is, do you have a little bit of a pattern? And if you do, then just solve that problem. And if your pattern is your mood tends to get down, then look at those little things that might help. And those little things that might help are physical activity, connecting with other people, put something on the schedule or calendar where you're going to get together Friday night or Saturday night. Who cares who it's with? A coworker, a friend, family members. Put things on your schedule that are going to get you out and get you moving.
Yeah, that's so important. It's so easy, especially in the winter months when it's darker and it's colder, you get stuck inside. And that just triggers such a rut. I know I'm probably projecting a little bit, but I know that when I get stuck inside for long periods of time, it wreaks havoc on my mental health. And just getting a little bit of sunshine, mixing up the routine, the schedule. Oh my gosh, like I know it's not like a cure-all, but it's so powerfully helpful, especially if you're on like the lighter end of the spectrum when it comes to seasonal depression.
Yes. And seriously, don't underestimate the value of sunshine.
Yes,
and so
seriously.
If it's, and it doesn't have to be every day, but if you're at a place or you're somewhere where it's cold, or I love to get up to Colorado, and we've been up there at times where it's 15 degrees. But when the sun is out, oh my gosh, it feels warmer. We've all had that experience where we're like,
it's glorious.
Oh my gosh, that just feels so good. And you go, yes, get 15 or 20 minutes of that because it feels good for a reason.
Yeah.
It's helping promote some of those feel-good chemicals, some of those sleep-good chemicals. And that is good medicine.
It's best medicine.
And be physically active. And if you have a hard time being physically active when it's cold or when the weather's drizzly, then cheat. Man, cheat. Go with the buddy system. Call somebody, schedule something. Walk around inside your office building or apartment building. Just move.
Yes.
And those are a lot of little things that can help. And if that doesn't seem to be helping, reach out to a counselor. Go visit with somebody for a couple of sessions to just get some coaching of, okay, I start to psychologically kind of take a dip. What are some things I can be doing that are specific for me.
Right.
That's all it is.
It's so personal
So,
too. So that's such a great
yes.
point that you brought up. Like, not every tip is going to work for every single person.
No.
Obviously, like movement and sunlight and getting good sleep is pretty universal. But finding
Yes.
what is particularly triggering those winter blues for you, whether it's a chemical imbalance or a lack of
Yep.
routine, talking to someone specifically. And if you're in a good place now when you're hearing this and you know that you're about to take a turn for the worse, maybe this is your
Yeah.
opportunity to, like I was saying, pre-book. I think it's
Yep.
always good
Yes.
to get it scheduled when you're feeling better, because when you're kind of in the
Yes.
muck, it's so much harder to be proactive.
Yep. No, and look, it is a very real thing. The seasonal mood disruption. It's a real thing. We've studied it plenty. It's not just in your head.
Yeah.
There may be reasons, either physiologically or sort of emotionally, relationally, because of past or present, that your mood tends to dip down this time of year. Okay. Don't be all judgy with you. Just look at it as data and go, yeah, no, I struggle with that. Okay, now solve that problem.
Mm-hmm. The doctor is validating you. If you don't feel good, it's real. It's not in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
I personally
That's
needed
it.
to hear that. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I know.
Oh my
Me
gosh.
too.
Well, I'm so glad that we got through all of this amazing holiday and winter goodness, great mental health tips and tools.
Yeah.
I feel like we both learned some ourselves. We're going to talk more about starting the year off. So we'll still have another winter chat. For those listening, I am basically forcing Dr. G to give us a New Year's resolution episode as well.
We will totally do that. I love that one.
So we're doing that. And I'm just so grateful that you were able to share so much with our audience. This is fine. Loves you, Dr. Gilliland. Thank you times a million. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Thank you for being here.
Oh, gosh. What a joy and what a pleasure every time we talk. I hear things and see things a little bit different. And I try to always say that, because one of the things I hate, and you and I have talked about this, is that people look at, we do this for a living and we talk about it, but we still struggle. And so for me to be able to talk with you and hear what you do, that helps me. That's absolutely one of the reasons that I love doing this. Is it helps me. I continue to learn. I'm reminded of things I've forgotten about. And and you've said it before, the most critical thing we need is to have the right frame of mind about our psychological health, which is, I'm just going to pick one of these things I heard, and I'm going to work on that. I'm going to try to get a little bit better at that this year, because that's what you do at the gym. Yep. It's what you do with piano. It's what you do at work. Okay, just do it with your psychological health.
Yep.
So,
start small.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love that we're having like group therapy and everyone's listening to us.
Yeah, right. It was just us, I thought.
Thanks for attending our therapy session.
Yeah.
Dr. G.
It's called orthorexia. Look it up.
Look, go to the Google machine and honestly.
Go to the Google machine.
It's kind of serious, so like maybe go talk to someone, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do an episode on that.
We love you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, you're so wonderful. Have a wonderful season yourself.
All right. This is the penultimate episode for the year. I almost forgot to mention that. We'll get the 2023 astro forecast from Shannon next week. I haven't even heard it yet. I'm recording with her shortly, so that'll be a fun one. We'll get a nice little overview of what we're heading into in the next year. And after that, we're taking a little holiday breather over here. Dan has been sleeping in the studio, so he definitely needs a break. He doesn't know this yet, but I got him a Pilates gift card to get him away from Pro Tools and into some self-care time. I guess he knows that now because he's editing the episode. Surprise! If you're still holiday shopping, definitely check out episode 22. If you haven't already, you'll get the scoop on my favorite things from 2022 that you'll love for 2023, plus my personal wish list, just in case you're buying a present for me, you know? I don't have an OnlyFans, so this is my plea. Last few holiday season things, some recommendations from me, something to listen to, something to sip, and something to smell. One, if you follow me on Spotify, I have some fun Christmas music playlists. I will link them in the description. You are welcome. Number two, if you miss gingerbread lattes at Starbucks, may they rest in peace, and you prefer cold coffee and cold foam, make yourself a gingerbread cold foam iced coffee or espresso at home. a little gingerbread syrup, a little vanilla syrup, 1 part milk, 2 parts heavy cream. Blend with an immersion blender until it's all fluffy and lovely. Pour it on top of your coffee and top it with some spices. I like ginger, nutmeg, cinnamon. Just trust me on this one. It is so divine, and you will save yourself the $8 at Starbucks. It is a recession-friendly Christmas miracle. 3 Thymes, that's THYMES, the Fraser Fir candles, Pura fragrance cartridges, diffuser oil soap. This is one of the best holiday scents I have ever smelled. Nest, Holiday, and Diptyque Sapin are also excellent as well. All right. Those are some of my faves. I hope you love them. We'll chat more next week at the winter solstice. Yay. But I hope these mental health tips from our favorite on-call therapist have helped add some levity and hope to your holiday season. We've got even more good stuff coming from Dr. Gilliland in the new year as well. Sending you so much love, glad tidings, warm and fuzzy feelings. See you soon. A bientôt. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of This Is Fine. I've been your host, Dominique Michelle Astorino. We're based in San Diego, recording in studio at DLI Productions in Pacific Beach with Emmy Award-winning sound designer Dan De La Isla. This is a comedy and advice podcast, but for legal reasons, this entire podcast is a joke and none of it is medical advice. To download the transcript or learn more, visit thisisfinepodcast.com.